everyone, this is Jackie Williams, and this month the All-Stars team is featuring the Happiness Abounds bundle, or the Hues of Happiness is also called. And this one is a great set that features, of course, some beautiful open line art flower images, beautiful rainbow colored papers, and of course some dies. My favorite personally happens to be this one, which cuts like the top of a notebook paper. And speaking of notebooks, that's the project I want to do with you today, is embellishing a notebook. So you will need just any notebook. I use notebooks quite a lot, and I'm partial to these spiral bound ones. And the measurements that I'm using will of course need to be adjusted to whatever the notebook size that you have. So I have cut 2 pieces of Pool Party, one just a little bit smaller than the front of my notebook, and then one just a little bit smaller than that. I'm going to emboss this with the brick embossing folder, and I'm going to have a piece of DSP going across about in the middle. So just make sure that your join is there in the middle approximately. So you will need to run this through 2 times. There we go. Now then I'm going to attach this piece to the other Pool Party mat, but actually before I do, I'm just going to ink that up a little bit, and I could go over it with Pool Party ink or Versamark, or another option, is the Whisper White ink pad. And I'm going to use Whisper White. Now with this brick folder, the bricks are different heights, so only some of them are going to actually pick up the ink, which I quite like. It really confused me when I first got this folder. I couldn't work out why they weren't all picking up color. Now I've gone ahead and adhered that to the Pool Party mat, and then I'm going to use tape, or you could use your Stamp and Seal to put that onto the notebook. I wouldn't recommend glue, just because you are probably adhering it onto some kind of a plastic. However, if the front of your notebook is cardboard or paper, then glue would probably work just fine. Now I'm going to take 2 pieces of the Hues of Happiness paper, and these are about 1.5 inch by 1 inch. And I'm just going to place those, actually I'm going to turn them around the other way, about in the middle. You could have them slightly not in the middle if you wanted. This is just going to give me the illusion of a strip across the front. And then I have got my piece of printed paper, and I've chosen one with more of a small print, so that because just a little bit is showing, you need more of a small print so that people can actually see what it is. And I'm going to choose to put that on an angle. You could put it on straight if you prefer. And you see that I have die cut the top with that notebook edge paper. And then I have a slightly smaller piece of thick basic white. And I have used that notebook edge die across the top. And then I have used that really great, I just call it like the background die there in the middle. And this is one that doesn't actually cut out around the outside, so it just cuts some detail into the paper. And some of the little bits come out and some kind of pop up instead. I'm just going to leave them flat because we are going to put flowers over it. Now for our flowers, I'm sure that some of the other projects have used, let me just grab it, some of the sheets have these large separate flowers and leaves, and the dies actually fit around those perfectly. So you could just cut out flowers right out of the paper. I am going to, just to show you something a little bit different, because at some point your paper will be all used up. So I'm just going to set that over here. So just to give you a few more options on how to use this suite. So I'll do these leaves first, and I'm going to use both Granny Apple Green and Pear Pizzazz, and I'm just going to squeeze the lid of both of those and get some color. You could also use drops of your ink refills, and just gonna color over those. Now I didn't say, already white embossed these on watercolor paper. And you don't have to use two colors. I just like that variation. I figure if you're going to the effort of watercoloring, it should look watercolored. Okay, and then I'll just set those aside. And then for my large flower, I'm going to use both fresh freesia and Highland heather, or you could use different purples of your choice. Then once these are all dried and cut with the dies, we're ready to assemble. I would suggest that you put your words on first. So I have just stamped the words, "You're wonderful in every way," and cut them out with the stitched rectangle dies. If you have room, you could stamp directly on this piece, but I also quite liked this coming off of the rectangle for a little bit of an asymmetrical look, just to make it a little more interesting too. So just decide where you want that to go, about there. And then I did the bigger flower first and put that one on with dimensionals. You'll notice that I put this down flat and I've put this up on dimensionals. So everything on this project I actually chose to put on flat except for that one large flower. I'm just going to use my bone folder and give this little rose a bit of a curve, and then just put glue on a portion of that and then slot that in about there. And then it's always nice to include a yellow flower or some kind of a yellow element when you're doing flowers. And I'm going to tuck that one in about there. And then with our leaves, you'll just put those in wherever you feel looks best. And I found, just as a design tip, that you often need more leaves than you have flowers. So I always cut a few extra. So I've got the option of putting on more. Okay, so I'm just going to tuck those in, and I'm just going to cut off these little stems. They don't really help and they just get in the way. Then just a couple of last things. I want to add the brushed brass butterflies to this project. I think adding the butterflies is really quite nice when you've got a bouquet of flowers. You can just put those, as many as you want really, but I think I'll just stick with that. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of a linen thread bow there. So I've made 2 loops, a smaller one and a bigger one, and then folding those each in half and then pinching it in my fingers like a figure 8, and then just cut off another piece and tie that in the middle. This is the only sort of tricky part. It helps if you have another person around to hold things while you tie. But my cats are pretty useless at helping me, so I've learned to do it myself. And then you can use a glue dot or just a little spot of Tombow glue if you can let it sit for a little while and dry. And then just trim those if you need to, the linen thread tails. Oops. And then if you would like, you can add some seam binding or some other ribbons over here on the spine. There was a time where it was quite popular to put lots and lots of ribbons down the spine, and you certainly can do that. I personally just think I prefer just one now, but that's just completely personal preference. And this white seam binding is quite nice. It's soft and it matches everything, or almost everything. I'm going to leave those tails fairly long. And so here's another color version that I did earlier. So this one I've given it a fresh freesia background and then just changed up the arrangement of the colors a little bit. And I felt that this centerpiece was just kind of floating all by itself, which is why I added these two pieces, just to give it a little bit of grounding and to break up the background. Now, if you want to, you can also go through and stamp the pages with the fourth flower, just to make the inside a little bit special too. So I hope you have fun with that and enjoy taking your, say, dollar store notebooks and making them into something personal and special. This is Jackie Williams. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of the videos. Bye-bye.